Hey, I'm Jeremy Thone, Marketing Director of 3PL Systems. I have with us Cameron Robertson, our CEO. So, Cameron, I've worked at 3PL for quite a while, and I know LTL is like one of the best things that we do. We do it excellent, better than most TMS providers, I would say. But a lot of people get confused and they wonder whether or not we do like Truckload or Intermodal, for example. Could you just give us some insight whether or not 3PL does do that, in fact, with BrokerWare?
Yeah, for a very long time on version one of our software, we primarily focused on LTL, didn't really focus on truckload or any of the other modes. But since 2018, we've really expanded on the modes of transportation our software can handle. Some of the new modes of transportation we have now, intermodal, rail, drayage, LTL, truckload. We've really spent a lot of time focusing on expanding our truckload capabilities. And we recently launched Source Capacity, which is a new page that integrates directly with Sonar, Parade, Truck Stop, DAT. You pretty much name it, we have it integrated at this point.
Yeah, it seems like Parade's a really interesting integration that I'm looking forward to because from what it sounded like, you could analyze maybe you have 10,000 carriers in your BrokerWare TMS, and it might find the best 10 carriers using some sort of technology to find you the best carriers for that specific lane using like emails and past data. Is that your understanding of it as well?
Yeah, Parade is a really awesome technology. It allows you to utilize your own data sets, but also utilize Parade's data sets in order to help you find capacity to cover your shipments. So it's a very powerful tool. Highly recommend people to reach out to them and demo their software.
Sure. And if you were looking at, if you were, since you have so much experience with like TMS and you were out in there in the market looking for a TMS and you had like five that you were looking at, like what are like one or two things that you would keep in mind if like you were in your search?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So the two top priorities for me would be what is the tech stack that it's built on, and is it scalable, truly scalable? And a lot of the times you either need to hire someone to come in and help you determine if that TMS is scalable or not, to ask the right questions. But the second question I would ask is, can my team solely work inside of your TMS platform without having to open up all these different tabs for all these other providers, such as carriers, such as partners? I've seen it all too often and spoke to so many different people in our industry that they have to have their TMS open along with 30 other tabs to find the rates, find the coverage they need for their loads. When in reality, and there's a lot of TMSs out there that are very good, that you could just run that all in a single interface, and that should be your TMS at the end of the day. Yeah.
So it's basically you're using your main TMS system and you have all these different integrations, but they're all kind of feeding into your TMS. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it makes it a lot easier also to train your team, your staff, in order to utilize those tools all in one interface rather than saying, I need you to learn the TMS, I need you to learn DAT, I need you to learn Truck Stop, I need you to learn Parade, so on and so forth. It's just a lot, more efficient and effective for your team to be in one single platform.
And I got one more question for you. How does the development work at 3PL Systems? Like how often is the team, the engineers developing new software, and how do you guys figure out what to develop?
Yeah, great question. So we're developing nonstop. We have an onshore team, we have an offshore team, and we develop 5 days a week, sometimes on weekends when needed. And the way it really works and how it's determined is by working with our client base to determine what's going to have the most impact on ROI. There are a lot of people who focus on little things that they want to have built, but at the end of the day, I think one of the most important questions that a business owner or someone operating a brokerage needs to ask is, my TMS provider focusing on things that are going to have true ROI, or are they focused on just little additions, bells and whistles that are truly not going to help my business at the end of the day? Yeah.
Yeah, so from the TMS perspective, you probably want what's best for the whole group, essentially, not necessarily something that's going to have a little effect just on one client.
Exactly. So that really goes into the whole conversation of should you buy or should you lease or should you build? And if you lease a TMS provider, that TMS provider has a lot of different clients that they're working with, and they need to make sure what they're focusing on has an impact for a big portion of that client base. If you bring a development to that TMS provider, I can almost guarantee of all the TMS providers I know that are running SaaS platforms, they're not going to focus on building out, single build outs just for you if it's a SaaS application. You can still have a SaaS application, a TMS that you can customize, but when it comes to that, you're going to have to typically look at buying either a copy of source code, or you're going to have to look at building your own from the ground up.
Does 3PL system sell source code, and does other TMS providers sell it out there on the market that you know of?
Yeah, we do. So it really makes sense for larger brokers to look at that option because if you want to fully control your destiny, not worry about what other brokerages are wanting inside the TMS, it allows you to really focus on what you want, just your brokerage. But that does come with its cost. If you decide to buy TMS and build on top of that TMS, you're going to have to host your own servers typically. You're going to have your own dev team. And that can also add up. So you have to look at all different scenarios that make the most sense for you and your company.
So maybe if you're like a smaller mid-sized broker, a TMS solution like BrokerWare or whatever else is on the market is fair game. But like if you're really large and you have a lot of capital, maybe you want to build something and buy something that's already somewhat done and create your competitive advantage on top of the code that already exists.
Yeah, exactly. If you're really large, you want something that is, first off, make sure you look at the tech stack behind that before you purchase anything. But yeah, if you're really large, you probably want to look at purchasing source code, hiring a dev team, and really controlling your own destiny.
And if you're not technical too, you could hire maybe a consultant, right? I know that we even know some people that might be consultants that can kind of come in and help evaluate, right? If they don't, if the person on the team or the CEO is not technical.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of consultants in our industry that help with that. There are companies that focus on helping with that. I believe Metaphora is one of them in our industry that helps do that. But there's a lot of resources that are available to them today to help make those decisions.